those areas. Thank you.
Members, Councillor Ali.
Can you be more specific in regards to what actual improvements are going to be made, especially in my ward, on the back? Oh, annual, sorry, it is your ward, but yes. So specifically, what's going to be around the coming from the Rhubarb Bridge downwards, especially as we've got a large amount of antisocial behaviour and lighting issues down there as well.
I'll give you a general answer, but then I will refer to for a little bit more detail from Lewis Banks, who's here with us today. The first thing to say, there are areas of concern where we want to do more work on the cycleway, the off-road cycleway, but across North and Central wards, the area around, so there's quite a huge area. The money isn't there for everything, but there are some key areas where the work is going to be needed, and that's why we want your input as ward councillors. Can I just hand over to Lewis, who perhaps can elaborate on some of those potential key areas?
Yeah, sure. So we're looking to actually design up the whole route there are a number of options, and I think we'd really like to appreciate, I know we're in early discussions at the moment about getting a meeting with the ward councillors to understand what your priorities are in terms of the areas we can do, because with the funding, although it's a lot, we can't do the entire route, so we are probably picking a section or two to do. So yeah, I want to understand what the ward councillors' priorities are, and really then what some of the issues are as well. So obviously you touched on the lighting there. Have we done enough with the designs? Is there more we can do? So really, want your feedback as much as possible to kind of inform obviously our decisions on which areas we take forward.
Is that okay if I ask?
Yeah. Do you want to ask a follow-up question?
Yeah. Just to emphasise the point of, will this include? I know we get a lot of flooding. Will this include? I think the pumps, replacement of pumps, especially down Borges Boulevard and the Lincoln Road kind of underpass does get flooded quite a lot. Will this include that kind of repairs as well, or should I say upgrades?
Just to pick up your points about flooding and Borges Boulevard, extra funding was allocated this year because it was recognised that the cleaning of gullies affects that area in particular. So I made sure that we allocated some extra funding to do that, and that is ongoing. Whether it comes under the remit of the active travel schemes, I'll hand back to Lewis just if he can cover that off for me.
Yeah, like I say, we are looking to do major works on the footway and cycleway. So if there are known issues at the moment with regards to flooding, yeah, I think it completely makes sense, doesn't it? While we're there, if we're digging up the footpaths to actually see what else is needed. So yeah, I think that's definitely something we need to take forward and look to, if there are issues, make sure that we get those improved as part of the works that we're doing as well.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ali. Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Leader, and through you. So it says here about the consultation process that has taken place in terms of ONH and various other groups, the Cabinet Walking and Cycling Group. What was the feedback from actual cyclists and users of the kind of the people that this is designed to help? What was the kind of feedback that we got from them?
Yeah, sure. So on I suppose two of the newer schemes, I suppose, because obviously Peterborough Station Quarters obviously had quite a lot of publicity and consultation around it. But I think around the Stanham Way cycleway, it is a missing link at the moment. So if you're coming over from Hampton, for example, you can cross over the bridge on the East Coast Main Line into the country park there, but you can't actually get into the business park. And it's such an obvious route for pedestrians and cyclists. So, and it is quite small. It is just opening up that little link. So, the people we've spoken to from a walking, cycling background were supportive of it because, like I say, there is a whole new route there which makes sense to open up. With regards to the Borges Boulevard one, obviously it has got good provision at the moment in terms of as an off-road cycleway. They are particularly interested, though, especially the key cycling stakeholders, in terms of what enhancements could be done from a cycling perspective. So one example that's under consideration is at the moment the cycleway goes past Gladstone Primary School. So obviously at school pick-up and drop-off times, really busy with lots of children. So obviously if you're a cyclist that's trying to get to work or come into the city centre, obviously there's lots of people all using that space. Now one option, we don't know if it's definitely viable or not yet, but could be to go round the back of the school, so using the grass verge by Borge Boulevard. So then if you're a cyclist that's looking to commute and go straight through, you can bypass that school traffic. So yeah, they're particularly interested, I think, in terms of the details and what some of those routes could be. But like I say, we're still working through that level of detail, and obviously still need to discuss it with the ward councillors as well.
I just wanted to
Yep.
note the fact
Follow
that, you know, it's really important that we make sure that when we do these schemes, we do them, that they'll be well used by cyclists and walking groups. So it's really important that we reach out to these groups and make sure that it is in fact what they are looking for, and you know, any changes that need to be made can be done at the get-go, rather than here it is and then they go, yeah, but if you'd only have done this, that and the other. So I think it's really important that we make sure that the consultations count.
Can I just come back and reassure Councillor Hogg? It's very important to me, the walking and cycling working group, talking to people who walk, cycle all the time, and the experts in cycling, if you like. And so it's very important we take on their views about the best routes, about what to do, what not to do, making sure it's safe for all users. And that's just as relevant for these three schemes as future schemes that we're looking at.
Thank you. Councillor Ali.
Just to, on the point of Boyd's Boulevard, and you want to make the cycle path go behind the school. There was one before, it was taken out. so I'm quite sure that the remnants of it should be still there, and I think the space will be there as well. So that's definitely something that I would strongly recommend in regards to, as it is a safer path, as I'm fully aware of what's going on now in regards to the front and pedestrian-wise as well.
That's great. Yep, thank you.
Any other questions at all? Debate? Anything else? No? Lewis, I'd like to ask you a question, please. In terms of, we've seen certain social media posts from the Combined Authority Mayor criticising the fact that the then administration had put out cones on a cycleway above Crescent Bridge. There was a legal requirement, wasn't there? There was a government direction during COVID to put temporary cycle paths in place. Would you like to, for the sake of the public scrutiny or the public watching, would you like to actually substantiate that information? Because I think that's really important to put out there why that cycleway was put in place in the first instance during COVID.
I'll let Lewis answer, but then I'll come back after Lewis as well.
Yeah, sure. So ourselves, like I think all other local highway authorities, received some funding during the pandemic to look at, obviously, walking and cycling provisions, with an emphasis being on widening footways and cycleways to support social distancing and to try to encourage, obviously, people to walk and cycle, you know, when people are able and legally able to leave their houses, etc. So obviously, we did that at quite a bit of pace. So we did a number of schemes. So we did Crescent Bridge, and we did a number of other bits as well in the city centre. Yes, under a temporary basis there. Obviously, traffic volumes were low as well at the time. So yeah, that was really the it wasn't a huge amount of pre-planning for it. We really got the message from government and acted upon it then as well. So I'll let Councillor Ellis come in.
Just like to add, yeah, those schemes at that time were very different. I was on the group which were looking at these temporary COVID measures, money that we got quickly from government that we had to, put in place quickly, and they were, cutting off bits of road. They're completely different to plans we've got in place, proposals we're looking at for proper, safe walking and cycling routes across the city, including Crescent Bridge, putting safety first before anything else, and will be so to compare the two things is not like for like at all. They're completely different, and there's been a lot of work being done on on the Forbes Road to the city centre scheme.
Thank you for that. So if there are no further questions or comments at all, and I think thank you for making that point, because there were some quite misinformed videos that had gone out on social media by the Combined Authority Mayor, whose board I happen to sit on, and I would like to say I wish that the Combined Authority and the Mayor were much more better in supporting active travel schemes, especially around Peterborough, that is quite road-centric, so we However, members here are now asked to actually move these recommendations, please, which are number 1A, approve acceptance of the grant, and B, approve the council relevant officers to enter into a grant funding agreement with Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority in respect of the £1,138,537 awarded to the active travel schemes listed below. And number 2, note that an amendment to the capital programme will take place to recognise the funding and expenditure associated with this grant and will be reported as part of the next BCR report to Cabinet. 3, approve the award of works to the M Group Services Limited under the existing Peterborough Highways term service contract for the following schemes and contract amounts, subject to the completion of the associated grant funding agreements. In other words, Stanham Cycleway, which is £275,000, Burgess Boulevard Cycleway, which is £663,537, Peterborough Station Quarter City Link, which is £200,000. On that, members, are we content to agree the recommendations, or shall we move to the vote? Agreed? Okay, that seems unanimous. Thank you very much. Right. Moving on to agenda item number 6, which is approval of the A16 Norwood Highway budget. This item can be found on pages 7 to 10 of the agenda. Councillor Angus Ellis, Cabinet Member for the Environment and Transport. Please can you introduce the report?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, the Council has received a further £727,000 from the Combined Authority to finalise the full business case and detailed designs for the A16 Norwood project. This funding is vital to unlocking the continued development of 2,000 new homes at Norwood and Leeds Farm schemes. A series of highways improvements need to be made alongside a range of active travel elements, in particular a new foot and cycle bridge over the A47 with a connection down the Welland Road into the urban area.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. We're now going to be moving to questions and debate. Are there any questions? Councillor Katie Cole.
Thank you, Leader, and through you. With an additional 2,000 dwellings potentially going to be built in this area as a result of this dualling, I just wanted to ask if there are plans for a cycleway as the dualling is taking place, with an additional potential for that additional number of homes. There's going to be an additional number of children and youngsters going to the schools, Manor Drive, Ken Stimpson, potentially Arthur Mellows, and if we are going to support our active travel and trying to reduce the cost of school transport, then children and young people getting to school safely is really important. So I was just going to ask, are there plans for a safe cycle route alongside this additional dualling of the A16? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Katie Cole, and I really welcome that question, but I would like to be able to make sure you get a little bit more detail, so I'm going to pass it over to Lewis Banks to give you a little bit more detail on what plans there are.
Yeah, so specifically with this scheme then, with the Norwood development, so we are actually looking at a new pedestrian foot and cycle bridge, although obviously this funding is just for the design of it. We still need to find construction funding in the future. So that'll actually go over the A47, so we'll link the new site where the school is at the moment, down Welland Road into Dogsthorpe as well. So it provides a safe link over the A47, which isn't there at the moment. As part of this as well, we are looking at there is a route currently from that area, from the Norwood area into Eye, and we're looking at improving that as well. Obviously, within the Norwood development itself, there will be a number of excellent footway and cycleways, and that will be brought forward by the developer as part of the planning process, obviously when they're planning the estate, where the houses go, the roads, the footpaths, etc. And then just finally, I'll just touch upon that, we are developing also a rural walking and cycling strategy, as well to complement our urban local cycling and walking infrastructure plan. So although obviously the Norwood development is quite close to the urban area, obviously then there's other key linkages that go through, you know, to the likes of which I've just talked about, you know, to Thorney. So yeah, very much in, you know, future plans, I suppose, in terms of looking to get better connectivity in the rural areas.
Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Lewis. Can I just ask that as your plans for bridges and cycle paths and things like that continue with this development, that you keep ward councillors abreast of changes so that they can communicate effectively with their residents. And I just want to say I'm really happy that there's something going towards Dogsthorpe and Welland. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just to touch on that, absolutely, Councillor Cole. We want to have any thoughts and input from you, as you know, not only as a councillor, but also as the cabinet member, which covers schools, and also ward councillors in the area. Really welcome your efforts and ongoing. So yeah, please feel free to reach out, contact me, and then we can find out, get the information to you as things progress. And hopefully, as obviously it's not completely down to us, because all of our active travel, walking and cycling money comes from government via the combined authority. So not everything is completely in our own hands, which I wish it was, but it isn't.
Thank you. Are there any more questions, queries, comments? No? Okay. Right. So having said that, members are now asked to move the recommendations, which are: number 1, Cabinet is to approve A, acceptance of the grant, and B, approve the council relevant officers to enter into a grant funding agreement with the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority in respect of the £727,000 awarded to the A16 Norwood project. Number 2, note that an amendment to the capital programme will take place to recognise the funding and expenditure associated with this grant and will be reported as part of the next BCR report to Cabinet. Number 3, to approve officers to commission M Group Highways Limited to undertake the full business case and detailed design relating to the A16 Norwood project for the sum of £727,000 via the Council's existing Peterborough Highways term service contract, subject to the completion of the grant funding agreement. Members, are we content to agree the recommendations? Agreed? Okay, thank you very much. We now move on to agenda item number 7, which is award of contract for refuge and safe accommodation for victims of domestic abuse. This item can be found on pages 11 to 16 of the agenda. Councillor Zamir Ali, Cabinet Member for Communities, Poverty and Public Health. Please will you now introduce your report? Thank you.
Through you, Chair. This report seeks approval to award a contract to Peterborough Women's Aid to support victims of domestic abuse. Commencing on the 1st of April 26, the new contract will see the introduction of a Peterborough-specific, can't even say the word, service, which was previously shared, was a shared arrangement with Cambridgeshire County Council. The service will meet the needs of the victims, helping to keep them safe from harm, and it also represents an important element of our safe accommodation strategy for victims for domestic abuse, previously adopted by this council. I will add that this is a very important aspect that I hope everyone has a few questions on and puts it forward for agreement.
Thank you, Councillor Ali. Do we have any comments or questions, please? Councillor Katie Cole.
Thank you, Leader, and through you, it's a comment really. As a survivor of domestic abuse, I think that this strategy is a really important one, and especially that the award of the contract is going to Peterborough Women's Aid, who do a fantastic job in this city, supporting women, men as well, because they can be victims of domestic violence. And I think as well, with my cabinet hat on, being able to provide safe accommodation for children is really, really important. So thank you. This is a really good initiative.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Leader. Essentially, this is an extension of an existing scheme, albeit slightly more focused on Peterborough itself. I just wanted to make sure that we were, and I'm sure it's the case, that we are happy with the service that we've been provided with up to this point, and that's the reason why we are now renewing the contract.
Councillor Ali.
I'll pass it on to the officer.
Yes.
Hiya.
Vicky, hello.
Hello. It was a new procurement exercise. So previously, Peterborough Refuge had been commissioned by Cambridgeshire on behalf of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. That was coming to an end. So it was a new procurement exercise entirely, which they were successful in bidding for and winning. So it is a new contract. But yes, we have been happy with their performance up to date.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Yes, Councillor Mohammed Farouk.
Thank you, Leader. Just on back of that, do we have many providers of this type of service in Peterborough who we could outsource this kind of work to?
Not specifically in Peterborough. So Peterborough Women's Aid have bidded for our contracts in the past because everything that we get we put out to the market. There are providers around the area, but in Peterborough it'd be Peterborough Women's Aid are the main ones for our area, and they will also work with men as well as part of their contracts.
Any other comments or questions? No? Well, I just want to conclude actually by commending the work of Peterborough Women's Aid, and in the ethnic minority population where often domestic violence victims, especially women and children, won't hit the radar. But since they've been commissioned to do this work, they've been absolutely fabulous under their Dahlia project, which I really want to put on record as doing phenomenally well in tapping into this particular demographic. So I'd like to put on record our thanks to the team and the fact that they have actually won an award recently in the Peterborough Telegraph Business Award. So I think that is worth sharing. But on the back of that, we have a couple of recommendation members to pass. So I'd like to ask that you approve the award of a contract to Peterborough Women's Aid, charity number 1180370, to provide support for victims of domestic abuse within a domestic abuse refuge or safe accommodation for a 3-year period commencing on the 1st of April 2026, with an additional option of 2 1-year extension periods for an estimated contract value of up to £170,000 per contract a year. B, authorises the Executive Director for Place and Economy at their discretion to exercise the optional contract extensions and extend the contract for a further 2 periods of 12 months in accordance with contract provisions. Members, are we content to agree both of these recommendations? Thank you. Thank you. So we move on. Agenda item number 8 is contact sharing agreement. Strategic Blue. This item can be found on pages 17 to 20 of the agenda. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance, please can you introduce the report?
Thank you, Leader, and through you. Peterborough City Council has an existing contract with Strategic Blue for procuring services for Amazon Web Services, including our contact centre solution and server infrastructure. We are proposing a variation to this existing contract to enable another council to procure services via the same agreement. By doing so, both PCC and the other council could benefit from a 20% discount on the web services. Therefore, I commend it to Cabinet.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jamil. Are there any questions, comments, or... Okay, it's a very IT-related subject. I don't think... Oh, well, Councillor Farouk has something to say.
No, thank you. Just for the sake of it.
You know more about it than I do.
I'm sure you do more than I do. I think it's a great thing to do. Continuously looking at ways to save money and get best value for money for the council. You mentioned a council. Is there a number of other councils who are in this Strategic Blue, which would deliver more savings? And furthermore, I mean, my knowledge is very little, but 7 years ago, we were talking about having data center here and hosting a lot of other people, and the technology has moved on. I would like you to touch on that things have now gone into iCloud and we no longer need physical centers here. So if you can answer those 2 questions, please.
Yes, of course, Councillor Farouk. So Yeah, if I start from the back end, the data centre that we built here originally when this building was erected is now being closed down as part of our work to be a more modern infrastructure, and multiple reasons than that. We can't compete with people like Amazon Web Services or Microsoft in terms of their data centre. It takes a lot of money to be able to support and manage those types of environment. And so actually it's more cost effective to move those to cloud service provisioning. And it provides us additional resilience as well, especially from that security layer that sits around it. And also the additional resilience that provides as well. So, you know, to make sure that we've got that redundancy, we would need two data centres, which costs even more money to be able to do those elements. So this thing is purely around actually how can we share what we're doing with other authorities. You know, yes, there is one named in the report, but there are potentially other councils that could get on board as well and join that agreement. What this enables us to do is hopefully increase our growth within that contract by 10%, which then hits a threshold which enables us to save 20%. So you know, we can get more on board and save money for those other councils, but getting more on board wouldn't necessarily save us any more money ourselves in this scenario, but we're more than open to having those conversations with others.
Does that answer your question? Follow up?
So, yeah, quick follow-up. So back in those days, we were hosting for some other guests as well for education, and I think Cambridge Education, and one or two people from Northampton. Are they still hosted through us on this cloud system, or they've gone separate, independent way, and they're doing their own way of things?
No, so they've gone separately. So they moved out of our data centre back in September this year, yeah, they've gone off and done their own things.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for that, Julian. Members, any other questions at all? None? Okay, so we will move on to the recommendations, which are, number 1, authorise the variation of the Council's existing contract with the Strategic Blue Services Limited for the reasons set out in the report. And number 2, authorise the Council to enter into a delegation agreement with the Cambridgeshire County Council relating to the commissioning of the services from this arrangement. Members, are we content to agree these recommendations? Yep, agreed. Thank you. Moving on, number 9. Agenda item number 9 is approval for the local youth transformation pilot. This item can be found on pages 21 to 25 of the agenda. Councillor Katie Cole, Cabinet Member for Children and Young People's Services. Please can you introduce the report?
Thank you, Leader, and through you. I couldn't be more delighted to introduce the local youth transformation pilot, which has been funded by the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, also known as DCMS. This fund provides £673,471.06 plus £50,000 for digital enhancements to strengthen Peterborough's youth sector. We want to make youth services better and offer meaningful, long-lasting opportunities for young people from all backgrounds. Our plans will be delivered through 6 key areas. 1, improving local support, infrastructure and leadership. 2, supporting and training staff. 3, providing small grants to encourage new ideas. 4, reaching more young people and making access easier. 5, setting up a young people's foundation. And 6, building a digital platform shaped by young people themselves. Throughout the project, we will work together to make sure every pound is well spent and track our progress. To keep everything running smoothly and make the most of our funding by the 31st of March 2026, we'll be requesting the authority to manage procurement and utilisation of resources efficiently and in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have questions now, so Councillor Christian Hogg, comments, questions, debates, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Leader. I have to say that our youth sector has over the last 10, 15 years, what have you, has seen a decline in government investment, and I think it's been to the detriment of our community. So it's really nice to see there's some money available so that we can start scaling this provision back up again. Time and time again, adults are always, sort of having a go at the youth and saying that, that they're antisocial behaviour, etc., etc. And it, a lot of it's down to boredom. It's down to the fact that there is no provision. It's keen young minds will find things to do, and it's much better that we are able to provide and nurture our youth. So I think it's really positive that this money is now being made available. So leading to a question. So the question is essentially, I know that we've talked about establishing a youth zone in Peterborough, and I think that's a really good thing for us to be aiming towards. I think it will bring the youth together. It won't. I think you get the situation where different neighbourhoods, because they're fragmented, and actually having a central location for youth provision actually then starts to create a Peterborough identity rather than a Stanground one or an Orton one or a Breton one. So my question is, will some of this money be used towards furthering that goal of a youth zone?
Thank you, Councillor Hogg. The money can't be used for a youth zone, but what it can be used for is for youth clubs such as iYouth Club, boxing clubs. There's one in Roots and Rise in Queensgate, other youth club type activities like that. They can apply to, I believe, I will double check with John, but they can apply to have some of this money to support and expand their services. As part of our key priorities here in Peterborough, it's making sure that we are a child-friendly city or a youth-friendly city. As you've said, we don't want communities feeling isolated, and it's really important that the youth are brought together to break down those barriers, to form friendships and understand each other's communities, ethnicities and ways about going about life. By doing that, hopefully it will reduce the amount of animosity that can be created when different groups don't understand each other. So I'm really proud of this. It really does show that the government is investing in youth. There's the Youth Trailblazer that's been involved with the Posh Stadium that was announced a few weeks ago. You've got the Youth Transformation Pilot. You've got the Best Start hubs that are going across the city. So to me, it just shows that this government are putting youth and children at the forefront of their plans for the future. But if John wants to say anything more about any specific youth clubs, I'm really pleased with this initiative. Thank you.
John, have you got anything left to say?
Yeah, very, very little, to be honest with you, Leader. Just to say that, securing a youth zone for the city would be a fantastic achievement. It's something that Adrian and I talk about regularly. We know that it's something that we aspire to, but the reality is that that it requires a significant amount of capital investment, and then there are other challenges around revenue, costs, and then the local leadership and management of such a facility. Having said that, the local youth transformation pilot, I'm really proud to be able to say today, we were one of only 46 local authorities, and we were only one of 12 that were awarded. So that really is a great accolade for our great city here today. And I'm really pleased to be able to say that the 6 strands of work are all about enhancing a system. So I don't think this will be a return to the local authority delivering traditional style youth clubs as such. But I think what this will do is it will provide infrastructure support, strategic leadership to the sector to enable them to grow as a sector locally and deliver better youth outcomes for all our young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've got Councillor Neil Boyce now.
Thank you, Leader. I had the privilege of attending the meetings in July with the National Youth Agency, and their enthusiasm to bring this to Peterborough was amazing, and I would hope that this Cabinet fully supports this item. Thank you.
Thank you for your thoughts. Councillor Zamir Ali.
I've got a few questions. Are you intending, it's an interesting point that you just made, that you have no intentions as a council to be running youth clubs. Do you have any intentions of taking over any community clubs to be able to fulfill any of your pilot schemes?
no, absolutely not. No, this is very much about the local council, Peterborough City Council providing strategic infrastructure support to existing local youth and community groups to enable them to grow, to reach more young people.
Thank you,
That's
that's
it.
fine.
Thank you. Councillor Mohammed Farouk.
Thank you, Leader. We absolutely delighted. We welcome this funding, along with many other fundings. In Hampton, Councillor Wigan, who's sitting here, Ramsey Mill do a very valuable work in Hampton. It will be an opportunity for them to tap into this funding and extend their services. My question is, again, we welcome large number of funding, whether it's Pride and Place, whether it's youth services, value for money. I know we mentioned here measurable outcomes. Is that something you're going to bring here and ensure that this money delivers measurable outcomes for our youth? And then the second part of the question is about digital platform it mentions. Is that going to be something sort of central to it, where any youth person can get on to a platform and say, oh, this is where this activity is happening, I could go on to join it? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farouk. I'm going to ask the second part of your question and then leave the other bit to John. So in terms of the digital package, I attended the meetings with the DCMS when they were discussing with myself, the then leader Dennis Jones, and others about what this should look like. And included in those meetings were youngsters, and we could all agree in the room that the youngsters are tapped onto their phones quite a lot. So it was important that whatever platform is produced, how to get the message out to youngsters, that we tap into how they communicate. And it was agreed in the room that some form of app type something, I might have got that wrong, would be developed, or website would be developed in order for them to be signposted to where they can go. So I am really excited to see what people with more technological brains than I have come up with, and I will be trialling it on my own child when it is announced. And as for the first part of the question, John can answer that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Cole. Specifically in relation to the value for money and legacy element of it, obviously this is a very short-term pilot project, just short of £700,000 that has to be spent by next August. So this is very much about trying to work as agile as possible to deliver as much as we can in the shortest possible time. I would like to think that it will lead to further investment in youth services nationally, but there's no evidence that that is the case, although the government have just announced their new youth strategy, and we're waiting to see what that means locally going forward. In relation to outcomes, I think the success of this project will be very much about whether or not, when the project ends, there's a vibrant youth partnership operating across the city with a number of different youth organisations working together in synergy to achieve the best outcomes for young people without the ongoing support of the local authority.
Thank you, John. Councillor Mohammed Jamil.
Thank you, Leader. Just moving on from there, because I know we used to have youth services who used to deliver a very valuable service around the city. Now, like you said, that this money is not going to last forever. It's actually quite short term. So when we finish, will there not be a vacuum? What we're hoping will be the intended consequence of this?
Thank you, Councillor Jamil. So, as John has just said, at the end of this pilot, the hope is that the offer, the website, the digital platform is almost is either continued, we get more funding from government, but actually that the funding that's been provided to these youth groups has allowed them to invest and promote their services further. I was really fortunate as a youngster. I worked for Peterborough City Council's youth service. I worked at the play schemes all over the city, and it was a fantastic thing that this council delivered. We're not in that place now, but we are very aware that there are fantastic youth groups across this city, and this funding is there to support them, to expand, to promote their services further, and hopefully it will be continued, as John said, if money is continued to be made available. John, do you want to add anything else?
No, but just to answer your direct point, Councillor Jamil, the success of the project the success of the programme will be that there will be a richer, more vibrant, larger youth offer across the city that doesn't rely on the council to deliver or facilitate it. So if you think about some of the local homegrown small scale youth offers that are out there through this investment in the sector, they might, it might be as simple as they can provide more volunteers trained using this money to open on another evening. It's at that scale. It's very much a pilot project, and hopefully, some large oaks will grow from very small saplings.
Thank you very much. Any more questions, comments? Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Leader. I mean, I think it's clear that we're not getting involved in the nuts and bolts of this. The idea is that we're looking to facilitate, nurture, etc. Is it kind of similar to what we've done with the homeless strategy, with the Safer Off Our Streets scheme, where they've basically they bring together all the various different groups across the city to a more cohesive offering that means that that some of the parts are equal to more than. Is that what you're looking to do?
Thank you, Councillor Hogg. So a few months ago, there was a launch project, and there were youth representatives, youth organisation representatives from across the city. So there was football type groups, there were youth club groups, all sorts. And as part of that, they were discussing that they wanted to bring everything together so that they could be signposted. So I'm hoping, yes, that's how it will end up being, but based on the 6 strands that how we're going to deliver this, it's important that we follow the parameters for this money, and let's see where it goes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, if there are no more questions or debate or comments, I think we all recognise the passion behind providing something like this for that age gap, isn't it? Sort of like youth rather than smaller age children, which always, I think, that little age group gets most of the focus. But actually there is a real thirst in this city, and I think that this is a good, very fortunate that we are one of 12 authorities to have won this pilot, and I'm really actually keen to see how this will progress forward. But on that note, members are now asked to note the recommendation and accept, which are: number 1, retrospectively approve application for this grant and approve acceptance of this grant in line with the grant terms issued by the Department of Culture, Media and Sport to deliver the pilot as detailed within the body of the report. Number 2, notes that an amendment to the revenue budget and capital programme will take place to recognise the funding and expenditure associated with this grant and will be reported as part of the next BCR report to Cabinet. And number 3, approve delegated authority to the Executive Director, Children and Young Peoples, in consultation with the Executive Director of Corporate Services and the Monitoring Officer, to approve all expenditure related to the Local Youth Transformation Pilot Grant as set out within the 6 work streams as set out in paragraph 2.5 of this report. Phew. Leader, are we content to agree the recommendations? The Leader's asking the members. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right, we now move on to agenda item number 10, which is final approval of the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Local Nature Recovery Strategy. This item can be found on pages 27 to 184 of the agenda. Councillor Ellis, Cabinet Member for Environment and Transport, please can you introduce the report?
Thank you, Leader. I am pleased to present the final draft of the Local Nature Recovery Strategy. This document has been drafted by the combined authority with the support from Peterborough City Council officers and details how to recover nature across the whole of Cambridgeshire. The LNRS is both a document detailing methods for nature recovery and a series of maps that identify priority areas for nature recovery. The document has been through a long process of internal and external consultation, with hundreds of stakeholders becoming involved. It is the recommendation of the Economy, Inclusive Growth and Environment Scrutiny Committee for Cabinet to approve the publication of the LNRS, and I very much endorse its approval today if Cabinets agree.
Thank you. Do we have any questions, comments to make at all? None? Yes, Councillor Mohammed Farouk.
Thank you, Leader. I've sat at the Combined Authority on this particular item, and I think this is a great item, and it's got support throughout the Cambridgeshire, so there's no reason for me or for us not to support against it.
No other comments or questions? I
you.
just actually want to place on record and praise the work of the officers in this really comprehensive document. I have gained a huge amount of knowledge about the flora and fauna within our area. We've had some really constructive conversations about it. It's a high quality document. Anybody in the public that is watching this, I would suggest that you go on to the pub and have a look at how blessed we are with the species that are varied here. I know it's in line with policy procedure, but actually planning policy, but it does illustrate how fortunate we are here as a region to have those unique characteristics. So I'd like to thank the officers for the hard work put into that report as well. And sorry that nobody's made any comments, but I will make those comments on behalf of Cabinet for you. So on that note, members, we are asked to move these recommendations, which are for Peterborough City Council Cabinet to approve the Cambridge and Peterborough Local Nature Recovery Strategy for publication. I'm certainly in favour of it if you are. Are we? Great. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you. We're now moving on to agenda item number 11, which is Section 76 Agreement for Supply of Devices and Drugs within Primary Care Health Public Health Services. This item can be found on pages 185 to 190 of the agenda. Councillor Ali, Cabinet Member for Communities, Poverty and Public Health. Please can you introduce the report?
Yes, and through you, Chair. Peterborough City Council commissioned GP practices in Peterborough to deliver a range of public health services, including smoking cessation support and fitting certain types of contraception, where services require medications and medical devices to be prescribed. We have a legal arrangement with Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Integrated Care Board to cover the costs of these prescriptions. This is known as a Section 76 agreement. The current agreement expires in March 26. Therefore, this paper seeks authority to renew the arrangement until the end of the current primary care contract for public health services. This paper has been brought to Cabinet to provide transparency around the spending.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ali. Anybody want to ask any questions, make any comment or go to debate? Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Leader. For as long as I can remember, we've had initiatives to help people with stopping smoking. So the question I've got is are we winning this battle? Is it that if we stop doing this, things would be even worse in terms of more people taking up smoking or not looking to quit? What does success look like with this strategy? I know that's really quite a hard question, but if you can kind of give us a bit of a flavour.
I can, if that's okay. Oh, I've lost my mic.
I believe Councillor Zamir Ali went on the smoking cessation programme. Have you been successful?
Yes, I have, and
there
it has been successful, and I'm not smoking. And I took a number of, firstly, actually going there and talking to someone, and knowing what your actual problem is, what your habits are. It's really important that someone that is qualified understands, and also then, and I tried a number of prescribed methods. Some fitted me and some didn't. And I can tell you, smoke-free for a very long time now. Really, really good. And thank you to smoking cessation lady that I was speaking to.
Thank you, Councillor Ali. Seeing that Councillor Ali has measured himself as being the parameter for success, would you like to give us the wider percentages as to the success of the smoking cessation?
I was smoking for 15 years. So, like I said, for someone that's a long-term smoker and has had that habit from very young, I think it is successful.
So thank you for the question. So there is actually a national ambition to eliminate smoking by 2030, and nationally that's measured by less than 5% of the population smoking. So within Peterborough we are working on a number of different programmes to achieve that ambition by 2030. This is one of those services which sits within primary care, and we've got others that sit alongside that as well, and we believe that they're all making a really important contribution to achieving that ambition.
Councillor Katie Cole.
Thank you, Leader, and through you. I was just wondering whether you are able to say how successful the contraceptive programme has been in reducing teenage pregnancy, and are there markers that we need to improve on in terms of getting that message out to the youth? Thank you.
Thank you. Emily, would you answer that? Thank you.
So that's another really good question. So nationally and in Peterborough, the trend for teenage pregnancy has been going down for a long time. In the last couple of years, we have seen an uptick both nationally and in Peterborough, and it's something that we're concerned about locally. So as part of that, we are developing a sexual health strategy for Peterborough at the moment, and teenage pregnancy is one of the priorities within that. So we're thinking about what further actions we might need to take to get that trend back going downwards again.
Thank you very much.
No other comments, questions? Thank you. So we will move to the recommendations, members. And just to say, we have an absolutely fantastic smoking cessation programme. Please engage with it. Even if your mum and dad don't know that you smoke, engage with it. It's there. So what we want to recommend is to authorise the council entering into a Section 76 agreement or other appropriate legal agreement with Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Integrated Care Board from the 1st of April 2026 until the 30th of June 2029 to cover the costs of drugs and devices prescribed within primary care, smoking cessation and long-acting reversible contraception services. Are we content to agree the recommendation, members? Thank you. Thank you. So moving on to agenda item number 12, which is budget consultation feedback. This item can be found on pages 191 to 220 of the agenda. Councillor Jamil, Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance, please can you introduce this report?
Thank you very much, Leader, and through you, the budget consultation feedback report provides Cabinet with an overview of the feedback received through the recent budget consultation. During the consultation, over 300 survey responses were received, in addition to nearly 2,000 poll responses via social media. Now, the feedback has highlighted strong public support for protecting education, adult social care and children's services, with the respondents less keen on us raising council tax above the national limit, preferring internal savings and efficiency measures. Suggestions received included reducing executive costs, improving procurement and generating revenue through enforcement and asset use. These are just some of the highlights, with all of the feedback being set out in the appendix to the report. These insights are incredibly valuable to us, and I thank all the residents for responding. We will use these to inform the next stage of our budget setting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jamil. Are there any questions, comments at all? This is on the budget consultation feedback. Councillor Farouk, it's your hand.
Thank you, Leader, and I think it's a great response. It highlights the key things, your priorities, Leader, and our administration priorities are protecting the vulnerable. So it talks about education, talks about adult social care, and talks about children's services. And you're absolutely right, Councillor Jamil, that this gives us a position to go on to set the budget. But what I wanted to ask was that maybe perhaps go one step further, and this gives us opportunity to align our corporate priorities in line with those residents' inputs as well in future purposes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd say duly noted.
Thank you. Right. So any other questions or comments? None at all. And actually, just to say that, you know, I think in terms of some of the financial pressures that councils, not just ours, but across the country are facing, especially with relevance to services that are provided to the most vulnerable within our society and in our city, especially adult social care, especially children's services. So making decisions difficult like this would always be with the intent to try and fund those services. So I think that's really important. And actually, it was a very useful exercise to see the feedback that was at the top of people's agenda to make sure that we safeguard those services because it affects their everyday living. So on the back of that, members, I would like to recommend that we note the feedback received as part of the budget consultation and would like to seek your agreement in relation to that. Do we agree? Thank you very much. Moving on swiftly to item number 3 is Peterborough Limited Reserve Matters Recruitment. This item can be found on pages 221 to 226 of the agenda. Councillor Ellis, Cabinet Member for Environment and Transport, please can you introduce the report?
Thank you, Leader. The Council has a members' agreement with Peterborough Limited, which contains a number of reserved matters. The reserved matters include a requirement for the Council's consent to be obtained before the company can make an offer of employment in certain circumstances. Whilst the roles detailed here would not normally require council consent, they do on this occasion, as there is currently no business plan in place for Peterborough Limited Services due to them being brought back into the council from the 1st of April next year. As such, we are seeking consent to authorise Peterborough Limited to recruit 2 new roles, and to delegate the decision relating to future similar requests to the Executive Director for Place and Economy to consider and determine.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ellis. Anybody want to make a comment, a question or a contribution? And obviously noting, just before I move to the recommendations, that we have noted the declaration of interest that Councillor Hogg has made, so he won't be participating in the agreement or if there is any vote anyway. So if there are no questions or comments, we are being recommended to give consent to Peterborough Limited, for Peterborough Limited to recruit and make offers of employment in relation to the positions of waste supervisor and charge hand respectively, and delegate authority to the Executive Director for Place and Economy in consultation with the Director for Legal and Governance Monitoring Officer until the 1st of April 2026 to authorise and give consent on behalf of the Council as shareholder of Peterborough Limited pursuant to the reserved matter 31 of the member agreement for Peterborough Limited and or Peterborough Culture, Heritage, Learning and Leisure Limited, otherwise known as PECHL, to make offers of employment in the future and or alter remuneration or conditions of employment of Peterborough Limited, PECHL, employers or consultants, provided that this delegation does not extend to the Council's consent, which may be required under any other reserved matter. Are we content to agree those recommendations, member? Well, that was a bit of a mouthful. Right, moving on. Before I move on to our next agenda item, I'd like to stress and remind colleagues here that there are a number of exempt appendices that are attached to reports for this meeting, and that should anyone wish to discuss the content of the appendix marked as exempt, and I stress, we need to resolve to enter a closed session so that members, if they do wish to discuss this in an open manner, that we move into the exempt session, and that will entail recommending and moving this and seconding it, okay? So if any member wishes to do so, any point from now, they're asked to formally move and look for a seconder, as I've said. So what I'd like to do is, this is in relation to disposal of the Council's freehold interest in the New England complex. And this item can be found on 227 to 226 of the agenda. Councillor Jamil, Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance, please can you introduce the report?
Thank you, Leader. As we are all aware, the New England complex on Lincoln Road is owned by the Council, building a housing number of different groups and organisations. The complex was declared as surplus to the Council's requirements and approved for disposal. Bids were invited from interested parties, with 3 submitting their offers. One party subsequently withdrew. A comprehensive, evidence-based, factual assessment of both the remaining bids has been undertaken, leading to the recommendation that's before us today to accept the offer from the party whose offer represents best value as a result of that assessment. I recognise the high-profile nature of this issue, and I have to say I am impressed by the way the officers have undertaken this extensive and impartial due diligence to reach today's recommendation. Clearly, with two bidders interested in acquiring the building, one will be disappointed with our decision today. I have therefore asked our officers to support the unsuccessful bidder with advice and guidance, should that be necessary, to meet their future property needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mohammed Jamil. Are there any members that wish to ask any questions or debate or make any comments? I would encourage you to do so. Councillor Zamir.
Sorry, it's popped out of my head. Back on to the next, I'll come back.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Christian Hogg.
Thank you, Leader. So clearly this property has certain issues around, you know, the fact that there are current tenants of the building or buildings, and you know, it's not like selling a parade of shops where you've got a couple of shops that might have to relocate, what have you. It's far more complex and than that, and more sensitive, shall we say. Clearly, there is a community use involved here, one of a religious nature, and I think as a council we need to recognise that fact, and I just wanted to make sure that if decisions are made whereby the current tenants do need to move on for what have you, that there is protections in place, or there will be protections in place, i.e. that the council will do their utmost to help that community to look for a new home for the activities that they want, that they currently do at the site. I'm kind of treading around this, and I'm sorry for that. So I just wanted to make sure that we are on top of that, and that if that does need to come into play, that we as a cabinet take that responsibility, that we will closely look at what goes on over and above, into the future, once the decision has been made. And I just want to kind of double underline that and make sure that that is in fact the case.
Sure, thank you for that question. And just to say, Councillor Hogan, obviously, because this is a public meeting, we have recommendations made from Independent Property Board. However, we as a cabinet here are quite open in the decision that will ultimately be made as to whether those recommendations will be supported on the basis of the information that has been given to us. Councillor Jamil, did you want to answer that question?
Yes, I did. And, as I've said in my summing up, that there were two bidders and one will get and one won't. That's why I've asked our officers, and I'm more than sure that our officers will do their utmost in order to assist those tenants who are in the building to either find a new home or meet their needs in a different way. So I'm hopeful, and I know that our officers will do their utmost best to do that, and I can give that reassurance today.
Councillor.
I just wanted to come back there. Ultimately, as a council, we find ourselves in a situation where previous administrations have made decisions that have put us into a financial position where, for rightly or wrongly, we're having to be absolutely clear in terms of value for money decisions that are being made going forward, that we're not in a position to do things that we might want to on a personal basis, that we have to be very clear on the finances of what we're talking about here. And so, but that doesn't mean that we should absolve ourselves from all responsibility. And I think it's really important that as a cabinet, we make sure that we do have some sort of report that comes back that clarifies, once the decision's been made, what we are going to do going forward. And I think we just need to kind of, as I say, double underline that.
Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Hogg. And obviously, I'm going to seek the proverbial nod in terms of gaining that report back to Cabinet in terms of an update report. I think that's what you're asking for, isn't it?
No,
that's what we do. And I think unanimously we would agree that that would be the right course of action. So thank you very much to our legal officer. Councillor Mohammed Farouk.
Thank you, Leader. I think pretty much Councillor Hogg has covered what I was going to say, but I'll say one or two words. I'll start with that conversation. In light of the report a few days which came in about the JMC and how an asset worth X amount was sold for X amount. So it's paramount for this Cabinet today to support the right recommendation or support the right decision or make the right decision today. So what I want assurances from officers that the right processes were followed, so that no loopholes, all the loopholes were covered, and the recommendations they made or they arrived at are the right recommendations. Thank you.
Councillor Mohammed Jamil, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, I'd like to start, and then I'm going to give it over to our officer, and then she can maybe expand on the way that we reached the conclusion that we did. But I am confident that we've undertaken an impartial decision that was open and transparent, and all the parties that were bidding knew exactly what the rules were and what the parameters were. So I'm confident in that, but I'll ask Felicity to come in on that one.
Thank you. We did make sure that each bidder was, all the details made very, very clear to both parties all along the way, and we also brought in additional officers to support us in reviewing those bids to ensure that a fair and justified decision was reached.
Councillor Farouk, you wanted to come back on that?
Yeah, just quickly, but extension from that. Of course, value for money is very important, and council's in a difficult financial position, and it needs to look at that. But did you also look at the community value added? That's the first part. And the second part, just to reiterate the point, so this is 708 units. There are sitting tenants. Their tenancies under the Tenancy Act are protected, and the support will be available to them to look at the alternative accommodation for any tenants which are there.
Thank you. Social value was very key, and that was absolutely another crucial factor when we were evaluating each bid. With regards to the existing tenants, they will have their own rights under their leases, and we urge anyone to obviously seek legal advice in relation to their leases, because there is the Landlord and Tenant Act that will protect them. But where we can support, we absolutely will.
Councillor Katie Cole.
Thank you, Leader, and through you. And I'm going to try and make this as simple a question so we don't go into an exempt session. So I just wanted to ask Councillor Jamil around the assessment and the different groups that have applied or looked to take over this this property, and the criterias regarding the different groups, and the assessments were impartial and thorough when deciding which one was the winner.
Sorry, I've just been advised that the question that you have asked does veer on to but on the basis of the democratic right to exercise that question, we can move into an exempt session if you wish to do so, and if you wish for that to be answered.
No,
for the sake of transparency.
No, it's fine, thank you. I was trying not to skirt into exempt, and I seem to have done so. So, thank you.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? None at all? Yep, Councillor Ali.
When or shall I say, was the equalities assessment and the social factor, how was that broken down? And I know how was that broken down in regards to the specific equalities aspect of it? If that's
So I think, again,
is it going into
it's exempt. So there's so much information that is exempt and confidential, and that is actually to protect the confidentiality of both bidders that we understand. Felicity has just, Councillor Jamil has introduced the report about. So there obviously has been a scoring system that went to the Independent Property Board and is in that exempt annex. And it's quite right for you to ask the question. And again, I'm asserting, if you wish for us to move into exempt session, we can absolutely do so if you want to ask the question and want to know the answer. I'm here as the chair to facilitate that from a democratic point of view, so that you have ample opportunity to ask those questions to ensure that you are completely satisfied that this exercise has been done transparently and with due diligence. Do you wish to move into an exempt session to answer that question?
I think we should.
You want to move into exempt session?
Just to make sure that we cross the T's and dot the I's, because I think it is one of those sessions that I think is one of those subjects.
Councillor Ali, no problem. So Councillor Ali has just proposed that we move into exempt session, and in order for us to do so, we would need somebody to propose that we move into exempt session in order to discuss, Councillor Jamil, and a seconder as well. I'm happy to second. So for that, in terms of that, we've got to now ask the public and the press to leave the building so that we can then move into exempt session and ask the questions. And what I would like to say to live stream, which I can see that it has. Thank you. I'll wait until you're all seated. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the members of the public and press that bared with us there. Are there any other comments or questions at all that anybody wants to ask? Obviously, you know. None? Councillor Ali.
Communities is part of my portfolio, and I have kept a keen eye on this for the simple reason that, A, I don't like any communities being affected in any sort of manner of this nature. But I will say that it is important that going looking forward, whatever way any decision is made, that we find a cohesive future for all of the communities. I think that's important too, and it is part of my ward as well, so it does directly affect me in that manner. So I have kept a keen eye on it, and hopefully we'll see what the decision is.
Okay, thank you. Well, if there are no longer any questions, comments or debate, and I will say here actually that Councillor Steve Allen, and it's important that we state this, Councillor Steve Allen of the Conservative Party wished to come in and make a statement and ask a question. He was granted discretion on my behalf as the chair to do so, and he then declined to attend. He wrote in and declined to attend. So I just thought I'd make that a matter of public record so that everybody here present is aware of his intention and then withdrawing as well. So we'll then move to the recommendations. The recommendations from the Independent Property Board are, colleagues, members, listen carefully, to number 1, approve the disposal of units 1 to 7 of the New England complex to the bidder, which demonstrates best value for money for the council under section 123 of the Local Government Act 1972, but also evidences, and I stress the word evidences, suitable social value for its users, existing tenants and the wider community. For clarity, the recommended bidder at this time is bidder B, as detailed in the summary of evaluations, page 14 of the exempt annex that we have all seen today. And number 2, delegate authority to the Executive Director of Place and Economy in conjunction with the Executive Director of Corporate Services and Director of Legal and Governance to agree final terms and complete the disposal. Are we content to agree that recommendation here, members? Agreed? Agreed? Okay. Well, thank you. That is that agenda item complete. Moving on to agenda item number 15, which is the marketing, outcome and disposal of 62 to 68 Bridge Street, the former Woolworths, TK Maxx and New Look building. This item can be found on pages 267 to 314 of the agenda. Councillor Farouk, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Growth and Regeneration, please can you introduce the report?
Thank you, Leader. I'm pleased to report the outcome of the marketing of 62 to 68 Bridge Street, known as the former Woolworths or TK Maxx and New Look building. Cabinet approved the disposal of the property in July 2025, subject to a future report being presented back to this Cabinet once the outcome of the marketing exercise was known. The property was successfully marketed by Montague Evans and 6 unconditional bids were received. The report recommends the sale of the freehold property to Bridge Street March Limited, a special purpose vehicle of MJS Investment March Limited. The purchaser is seeking to exchange and complete as soon as possible. The purchaser intends to redevelop the building, which will signal a significant change to our high street and create a dynamic new focal point for a major gateway into our city centre. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Mohammed Farouk. And before I move on, I'd just like to say that some of the agenda items that we have today have been based on recommendations and decisions that are reflective of transparent governance, which historically, unfortunately, due to previous administrations, haven't prevailed. And as an administration and cabinet, we are resetting the dial and making sure that we are completely above board with all the decisions that we have made. And that is why we would rather these difficult decisions that are presented in front of all of us today are taken with the highest level of candour and transparency and accountability in line with the Local Government Act 1972. So I just want to put that on record. And also, I'd like to remind members that if you are minded for any of these agenda items to contain or question any of the sort of exempt agenda items, please let us know beforehand so that we can organise that accordingly, which will not inconvenience the public to go out and in. So does anybody have any questions on this? Councillor Hogg.
So I'm keen to know, as I'm sure many members of the public are, regarding this building. I mean, it is a cornerstone building to our high street. And our high street, like many high streets up and down the country, is not doing as well as we would like it to be doing. Although there has been some notable good news in that regard in terms of the newly opened Fraser store in Queensgate. So my question, I suppose, really is, do we know what the plans are for this building? What can we see, and what kind of timescale do you think we'll be looking at to see, something done with it? Because, frankly, that building has sat there for quite some time now. I'm not entirely sure that it was a great decision for us to have purchased it in the first place. Let's see that we give it to somebody that is able to actually do something with it, and for the residents of the city.
Thank you, Councillor Hugg. You're absolutely right. That property's been sitting there on that corner for too long. Of course, the high street has been in decline, but there are smaller, vibrant entrepreneurs who can come in and run those commercial units. And I think sale of this we could talk about the purchases and until the cows come home, but what we need to do is we need to look at the future. And I think, to me, it brings the two distinct advantages. One, as you said, it brings back the property into life and increase that footfall in our city centre, which is badly needed. It may well be a better property delivered to what it is now. And pardon the pun, you're absolutely right. It's the cornerstone. It's literally a corner building on that. And it will increase the footfall on that. And then the second distinct advantage of this is the funds we receive back would be spent on other growth areas in the city. So they're not just simply going to go back into the revenue budget pot or council pot to meet day-to-day activities.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments at all? Councillor Hogg.
Sorry, but do we know what the prospective purchaser is looking to do with the building? Is there a kind of an outline? I mean, it may be that they haven't told us. I don't know. Is the point?
It's a mixture, but I'll bring it.
Is that working? Yeah, thank you very much. So I've got to be careful here because obviously this is an unconditional transaction. So we're selling the freehold to a developer who has intentions to bring the site forward. Obviously, I can't speak for the developer in terms of what they're going to do with it, but their intentions, my understanding is potentially to demolish it with smaller ground floor retail, potentially some first floor office space, and then apartments at a higher level. Potentially going up 2 more floors, maybe to 6 stories. But again, all these are assumptions and will be subject to a formal planning application process.
Thank you, Councillor Hogg. Anybody else like to ask any questions at all? Okay. Well, on that note, before we move on to the recommendations, one of the things that I want to say is that since our administration actually became in charge, look at some of the positive things in the regeneration and retail space. We've started work on the station quarter. Fraser's has come into town. We've got this on the corner, as you say, that whoever buys it, please tell them to get rid of that brick wall because it was just an eyesore, But I think that this is a promising sign within our city. We've got a bustling university that is a huge asset in terms of footfall, that whole regeneration agenda, the positive stories that are coming forth, and actually that we're taking responsible, decisive decisions in this city is a huge testament, not only to us as an administration, but the work of officers, that they exercise due diligence in this exercise and want to make sure that these funds, for whatever it is going to be sold for, is going to be recycled back into the Towns Fund as part of those recommendations for the benefit of our residents. And I think that that's a huge positive for us to take away. So I'd just like to state that as well. So, Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Leader, and through you. You've mentioned the wall, so I feel I have to mention something else that might be up other people's noses when they are around that area. With the potential new purchasers of this building, I think it would be amiss of me not to mention the Borges Boulevard smell. And could I please be assured that when you're having those discussions with whichever party is buying this building, that they engage with Peterborough City Council and other stakeholders like Anglian Water to try and finally rectify the smell that is around there. Thank you.
Chris, tell us about the smell.
I'm not sure that's one for me, unfortunately.
Yes, Adrian. Thank you.
I'll be the Speaker of the Pong, yes, thank you. Absolutely, Councillor Cole, this is an ongoing problem, as you know. Councillor Ellis has taken strong leadership in this space to try and get it resolved. We've also arranged a meeting with Anglian Water via the MP's office in the new year. And subject to approval today, we will be making sure that the purchasers are invited to that meeting. This does need resolving once and for all, and especially if residents are expected to live there, which we very much hope they will.
Thank you very much. Any other comments at all? None? So we'll move on to the recommendations, everyone. So number 1, the recommendations are: note the outcome of the marketing exercise and agree to dispose of the building to Bridge Street March Limited. Note the financial implications as set out within Exempt Annex 4 and agree that the net amount from the sale proceeds is recycled back into the Towns Fund budget. Number 3, recommend to full council to approve the budget environment allocation of funds funded through the capital receipt as set out in Exempt Annex 4. Number 4, delegate authority to the Executive Director for Place and Economy in consultation with the Executive Director for Corporate Services, the Director of Law and Governance and the Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance to take all necessary steps to facilitate the final decision, including entering into any necessary agreements and reallocating any unallocated funds as part of the Towns Fund programme. Are we content to agree the recommendation, members? Thank you. All you've got to say is agreed. I'm the one that has to say all this mouthful. Right, thank you very much. Right, moving on to agenda item number 16, which is write-off irrecoverable debts in excess of £10,000, 50,000 for non-domestic rates. This item can be found on pages 315 to 320 of the agenda. Councillor Jamil, Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance, please can you introduce the report?
Thank you, Leader. I can and I will. As you can see before you, this report seeks Cabinet approval to write off irrecoverable debts exceeding £10,000 and 50,000 for non-domestic rates, with a total value of 100,362 across council tax, non-domestic rates, housing benefit overpayments and sundry debt accounts. Within the report, you can see the reasons why these debts are being uncollectible, and the report also confirms that all necessary recovery action has been undertaken and that write-off is a standard practice for good financial management in line with the Council's policies and financial regulations. The details of individual debtors are included in the confidential appendix to this report, and I seek your approval to be able to do this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jamil. Is there anybody that would like to ask any questions at all? Oh, you have your hand raised, Councillor Hogg. I thought there was a microphone. Go ahead.
Thank you, Leader. I've been a councillor since 2018, and these reports come thick and fast on a regular basis. It's part and parcel of the financial business world, what have you. I think all businesses have debt write-offs on occasions. This is an incredibly small percentage figure of the money that flows through the council. Am I right in saying that this is actually quite low in terms of what we normally write off? Is that, it seems like a lower figure than normal. So I think that needs to be celebrated.
I know out there it will seem £100,000 is a lot of money, but in the grand scale of things, I think this year we've done a lot better than we have in the past.
I just wanted to pay tribute to the teams that start, that look to recover the debt. It can't be an easy job, and clearly that their feet are close to the fire and getting on with it. So please pass on our commendment for that work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just to comment on that, seeing that 47,000 of it are people who've passed away, I can echo your sentiments.
Thank you. Councillor Boyce.
Thank you, Leader. Just looking through the report, it appears some of these debts have been incurred over a long time, over 10 years. Why haven't we picked up on this prior to that and addressed the issue sooner?
Through you, Chair. So we do actually pick up on them at that earlier stage, but we keep the debt live until the absolute write-off situation. So that is why sometimes you'll see a back history of debt that we've been seeking to recover over that period of time as we've been going through that process. So that is not unusual. We will also, if need be, write debt back on. So even though debt has been at this point written off, if we became aware of a change of circumstances whereby we could recover debt, then we will actually write it back on again in order to do so.
Thank you. Councillor Katie Cole.
Thank you, Leader, and through you. I get that the council has to recover its debts, but I think it's really important that if you are a council taxpayer and you are accruing debt because you're not paying your tax, what does the council do to support those residents who may be in financial difficulty, especially in the climate we're in at the moment? I just need to be reassured that we do actually support those that we're trying to claim money owed.
Through you, Chair, absolutely. We seek to work with vulnerable families and individuals who are struggling to pay, to signpost them to other organisations who can help them with their finances, but also in extreme cases as well to support them through that.
Thank you. Anyone else at all? No? Okay. So we are now being recommended to approve the write-off of irrecoverable debt shown on the as outstanding in respect of council tax, non-domestic business rates, housing benefit overpayments and sundry debt included in the appendices to this report, which detail the financial year and category for the write-off request. The total value of irrecoverable debts in excess of £10,000 outlined in this report is £100,362. Are we content to agree that recommendation, members? Okay, thank you. Now, agenda item number 17 is report to the executive of Peterborough City Council under section 5A 3A of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989 and section 114A 2A Local Government Finance Act 1988. This is a historical matter, and I will now hand over to Graham and Christine, our legal officer and finance officer, respectively, as the statutory officers bringing this report. Would you like to please present?
Thank you, Leader, and through you. As you rightly say, this is a joint statutory report brought by myself as a monitoring officer and Christine Marshall as a section 151 officer under section 5A and section 114 of the relevant acts you've just stated. I think it's important to note at the outset that this form of 114 report relates to unlawful payments and is not in any way relating to the wider financial situation of the council. Indeed, this matter concerns the historic disposal of land and buildings known as the John Mansfield Centre and associated financial transactions in the financial years 2019 to 2020 through to 22-23 inclusive. The asset was sold in February 2020 for £1, and the stated value of that asset at the time was £4.6 million. Local authorities, when disposing of such assets, have a statutory duty to obtain best consideration under Section 123 of the Local Government Act 1972. Any disposal at an undervalue requires Secretary of State consent unless it falls under the General Disposal Consent 2003. This general consent would not have applied in these circumstances as the undervalue exceeded £2 million. There's no evidence that we've been able to identify that shows that the Secretary of State consent was either obtained or even sought. In addition, the delegated authority form that was used to approve the disposal was both constitutionally inappropriate and fundamentally flawed for the reasons set out in the report. Thus, the decision to dispose of the freehold of the JMC was made outside of delegated powers and in breach of the duty to obtain best consideration. We as statutory officers therefore regard this disposal as having been unlawful. As part of the sale contract that had brought about the disposal of the asset, there was a provision within that required the council to make a one-off payment of £150,000 to the transferee. There was no legitimate authority for that payment, and therefore we also regard that payment as having been unlawful. Following disposal of the asset, City College Peterborough, which is and has always been part of Peterborough City Council, continued to occupy the JMC, but commenced making rental payments at an initial rate of £17,010, including VAT, per month, later rising to £29,010, including VAT, per month. We've identified a total of circa £790,000 having been made in respect of rental payments. We've been able to identify no evidence of a formal lease and no valid authority for those payments, and therefore we regard them as having been unlawful. In addition, we have also identified a total of circa £142,000 in payments since the disposal, which are said to be in respect of maintenance and capital costs. Again, there's no evidence of any valid authority for these payments, and as such, we regard them as having been unlawful. This report is brought before Cabinet today to ask that you accept the findings of the report and that you pass the recommendations set out at paragraph 6 of the report. We as statutory officers think that these are necessary steps for the council to take to try and ensure that this unlawful behaviour does not happen again. I'll now pass to Christine Marshall, Section 151 officer, for any additional comments she'd like to make, and failing that, take any questions that members may have.
Through you, Chairman. So I completely support all of the comments that have come from your monitoring officer on this matter. I think it's really important that we focus on the recommendations and taking forward those arrangements and putting them in place. They will require additional changes to your constitution and other such internal arrangements, changes that are required as a result of this report. So I am fully in support of the report and commend it to you.
Thank you, Christine. Now, I would otherwise encourage asking of questions, but because of the nature of this being a criminal investigation, which has been duly noted, by the way, members, I think we need to adhere to just me reading out those recommendations in the interest of making sure that we do not jeopardise the ongoing investigation, which is hugely important, to assert that this was historical and that actually we are now under an administration that is seeking to look at that, and also when I read out the recommendations, that we understand the necessary interventions in terms of amending the Constitution to allow for such decisions to take place in the interest of transparency and accountability. So I'd like to commend the officers actually for undertaking this exercise, which can't have been easy, but you've done the right thing by the taxpayer that is watching today and obviously by all of our members. So I'd really like to thank you on behalf of all of the Cabinet and wider public as well. Councillor Jamil.
Thank you. I certainly echo the words you've just said, but as part of my portfolio. Governance and finances are both within my portfolio. And I just want to say that, you know, under our administration, we're fully committed to far-reaching improvements in relation to both governance and financial management. Now, many of the steps we've taken in recent years under previous administration have led us today to take more robust processes and policies in relation to the way we make our decisions. However, the recommendations before us today seek to take this further in order to make sure nothing like that ever happens again. The publication of this report is evidence that where there are unlawful acts identified as having taken place, the council statutory offices will not shy away from their duty to report that wrongdoing, and we fully support that approach and the actions that will then need to follow.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jamil. I certainly support that, and as an administration, we certainly support the officers in that. So with that, I will move on to our recommendations, which are quite lengthy. And actually, this has been quite representative of how we have operated tonight into many difficult decisions, but in line with due process. So I move on to the recommendations that members note the detail of this report and carefully consider its contents, please. That the Director of Corporate Services, Section 151 Officer, and the Director of Legal and Governance, Monitoring Officer, conduct a comprehensive review of all processes relating to the exercise of officer delegations as they relate to property transactions. That's the first. Third, that the monitoring officer take the necessary steps to seek approval to the following proposed amendments to the Constitution. So this concerns all of us. A, the inclusion of a specific provision relating to community asset transfers with the direction that all disposals of any such nature are by way of Cabinet approval only, and that this cannot be delegated. B, officer delegations are amended to expressly bring them in line with financial regulations insofar as they relate to the disposal of property by community asset transfer or at an undervalue. Number 4, that an external provider is engaged to deliver additional training to officers and members in relation to the Council's statutory duty to achieve best consideration. Number 5, that the Council adopt and thereafter adhere to a statutory officer and monitoring officer protocol, largely in the form of the Lawyers in Local Government Model Protocol set out at Appendix 3 of this report. Number 6, that the monitoring officer continues to explore all feasible avenues of legal redress in relation to the unlawful disposal of the JMC. Number 7, that the ongoing criminal investigation is noted, and it is agreed that the Council will continue to provide appropriate and lawful assistance to the police in relation to that investigation. Number 8, that the monitoring officer conduct a comprehensive review of all relevant policies, procedures and relevant aspects of the Constitution, and thereafter take the necessary steps to seek to implement any proposed alterations. For this, we do need a proposer and seconder, so I will propose. Councillor Jamil is seconding. So, do we agree with those recommendations? Comprehensive but necessary, members? Thank you very much. Now, I'd like to thank everybody in attendance today, and for all of your service as well, and to the officers across the board for your sterling work and having to deal with some very difficult issues. But I hope that you have the opportunity to switch off during Christmas. And to those in the public, thank you very much for attending. And for those watching, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and hopefully a Happy New Year. See you all in the new year.